Throughout human history, I believe that a sin that has affected almost everybody is pride in one way or form. I feel like pride is just such a heavy sin that people who are very prideful don't even know that they have. It affects a ton of people, and not only affects somebody, it doesn't only affect yourself, but it affects the other people around you. And some people, it's hard to notice that. I feel like it's important to talk about it. It's important to learn, what pride is and how can you avoid it? How can you try to escape it? It's hard to escape it, and it's hard to break out once you're so used to it. It gets to a point that you don't even know that you're in that state of mind. Uh, and I feel like a good point to look at, to just see the full effects that pride has, is in human history. Pride is that feeling that you believe that you're superior. It's that feeling that, like, just you. All that matters is you. You have pride in your reputation, pride in who you are. And you don't really consider other people around you. And I feel like it affects so much. I would like to talk about a very, what I like to think of a good example of this. It occurred in South America in the 1800s, and it was a war that is considered the bloodiest war in South America. It was fought between a small nation against two larger nations and another a relatively small nation. It was called the Triple Alliance War, and it took place with Paraguay going against Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay. But they kind of talk about how this war began and how pride is such a big part of it. You have to look at the historical context at the time. At the time, a lot of these countries, South America, just got independence from countries in Iberia, like Portugal and Spain. And because they just got independence, a lot of these countries are still having border disputes, especially a lot of these Brazil and Spanish-speaking countries, due to treaties in the past on how to divide South America. And at that time, Paraguay just recently became a free state. They broke out of a Spanish colonization, and they are sat in between, like geographically sat in between Brazil and Argentina, which are both two larger countries. And obviously, Paraguay, wanted to defend themselves. They built up an army for defense. However, their leader, they believed that a lot of these border disputes, should end as becoming Paraguay's territory. And so that's when it happened. Paraguay went after Brazil, and that kind of started off this huge war. At first, Paraguay has one of the strongest armies, if not the strongest army in South America at this time, with 60,000 men mobilized, and they were actually making their way through Brazil. But you have to keep in mind that geographically, a lot of the territory that we're going into was sparsely populated, mostly foresty areas. Eventually, Argentina and Uruguay joined Brazil's side. And at that point, once Argentina started going into their territory, you would have thought that Paraguay would have surrendered. However, they did something else instead. The president believed in doing guerrilla warfare, which is camping out and hiding, using your environment, doing all that takes to slow down the opponent. And this made the war insanely bloody. You also just have to, like I said before, keep in mind that a lot of this place is jungle. So it was deadly on both sides, and people of Paraguay are experiencing mass famines and just economic troubleship because of this. However, the president at the time, he kept on believing that they got this. He was blinded by his own pride. He couldn't tell that all the people around him was suffering. He just kept wanting to keep his reputation. He wanted to be known as this great leader, this great general for Paraguay. He wanted to get all the border issues resolved. He wanted to get land for Paraguay. And at the end, obviously Paraguay lost the war. but they took a humongous loss on top of that, as 90% of your male population has died, and it has plagued Paraguay for decades. Obviously, the president didn't get a good reputation. The only reason this war even stopped was because a Brazilian man was able to get the president, Paraguay, out. But I believe this is a pretty good example, even though it might not be one of the most popular examples of pride in time. It's definitely, I would say, a pretty big one. And like, as a matter of fact, especially in South America. I believe, obviously trying to like learn what pride is and trying to stop it before it even forms is essential on beating it. If you have the knowledge to learn what pride is and you have the knowledge to know what to do and what you're saying, I feel like you can beat pride that way. You have to realize who you are, what are you saying, what do other people perceive you as. If you're always pretty egotistic, just talking like everything that comes out of your mind straight ahead, obviously you're going to sound prideful, you're going to sound egotistical, you are going to be prideful. That's why I believe it's very important to slow down, take a breather, realize what you're saying, what you're doing, what's happening in the situation. You just want to learn what's happening all around you. And obviously there's lots of times in history where we have seen prideful people make a lot of huge steps and actually did a lot of stuff right before collapsing in the end. Like in the Napoleonic Wars, Napoleon self-proclaimed himself emperor and was able to take on large coalitions of nations at a time, and actually was able to keep up with his military actual experiences. He became so successful that a lot of people were studying a lot of these military tactics. Look at Napoleon, especially in modern days. And obviously, at the end, Napoleon was exiled, but it took him 2 exiles to get him out. His pride didn't let him go, just kept following him. However, you have to look like all the damage the war has done, the reputation has done. Some people called this the first real world war, even though it wasn't called that. It was massive and damaging. It just shows what pride can do to a person, especially the people around you. Like both of these examples, people who are prideful, a lot of these leaders who are prideful, they don't only hurt themselves at the end, they hurt the people around them. And that's what really makes a huge, massive impact, You have to realize you're not just hurting yourself, but you're hurting the people around you. And as I said again, if you want to stop pride, you have to realize what you're doing. Obviously, it's easy. It's easier said than it is doing, but you have to just realize who you are, realize the people around you, love the people around you, and try not to do, harmful stuff. Try not to be super prideful. Obviously, pride, it's a sin that affects a lot of people, but compared to a lot of other kind of sins, I don't feel like it's very notable. I feel like pride, even like the littlest form, can still be impactful. And at the end, I believe that as humans, I feel like we should try to love one another. We shouldn't try to be better than the other. But this is just my little take on this, and it's up for you guys to decide. I just want to say thank you for listening to this, and I'll make another video soon. So I guess we want to stay tuned for that. Stay tuned. Let's see ya.